All right. Good morning. Welcome to the P10I's Daily Show. Facebook has crashed as usual, so live just here on Instagram this morning. Welcome to Leadership Thursday. My name is Alan. I'm happy to be with you today. I currently have the pleasure of serving as the Chief Operating Officer for the Institute, as well as a faculty member in our Fitness Athlete Division. Man, I really need to go to the barber later today. That's on the schedule, don't worry. Hope your day is off to a great start. Hope you're all excited for the holiday season to begin. Here at Leadership Thursday, we talk all things practice ownership, business leadership, and we have a couple of announcements. Don't forget about the CrossFit Health Conference that's coming up in January. You can find out more information about that. 2 days of fantastic speakers, a really wide variety of topics targeted mainly at healthcare providers. So you don't have to be a fitness professional. You don't have to be a CrossFit coach. You don't even have to be a CrossFitter or somebody that participates in CrossFit. You just need to be interested in health and healthcare. There's 2 days of topics from PT and rehab and musculoskeletal care to nutrition and everything in between. That conference is only $69. And if you use the code ICE10, you can get $10 off. So go to CrossFitHealth.com, check that out and register, and don't forget to use the discount code if you're interested in attending. If you can't watch live, it is at Friday and Saturday, so most of you will probably be in the clinic on Friday. They are going to record everything and put it on the CrossFit Health website so that you can watch later at your own convenience. So that's coming your way. Course-wise, we don't have anything coming up for the next couple weeks, but starting in the new year, we have Modern Management with Older Adult Essential Foundations. That is starting January 5th. And then we have Older Adult Live here at CrossFit Fit and Health HQ. That will be the weekend of January 8th and 9th. So hope to see you and meet you in person if you can make your way to Michigan. Michigan in January, not too fun usually, but we'll make the most of it. We'll definitely have fun on the course. We got some cool spots here in Fenton to go out to eat as well afterwards. So hope to see you in January. Today on Leadership Thursday, we're going to talk about the topic of micromanagement versus macromanagement. So a lot of us are probably familiar with micromanagement. Most of us have probably had a leader in our life that was a micromanager. And very quickly we learned that we hate that. We naturally hate as human beings to have somebody constantly checking our work and looking over our shoulder. So that the micromanager is that really hands-on leader, that person who's really focused on productivity and reports and checking in, that wants to be in constant communication. So a lot of folks are now realizing in the day and age of remote work that they're part of their leadership team, or maybe all their leadership team, are in fact micromanagers, right? We hear these stories of our patients who come in and tell us they're so stressed because when they were working in the office, the manager would maybe check on them occasionally, but now that they're working remotely, they have to be logged into Zoom all day long and have their camera and microphone on, and they feel like they're always being watched. And that's kind of the stereotypical behavior of a leader who is a micromanager. Now, micromanagers are effective in the short term. There's a lot of really good business, leadership, and management research on this. Micromanagers do push people to really successful short-term outcomes. But as we talk about here a lot, we're focused on the long-term growth, sustainable business practices that sees business and operations last for hopefully generations. And that does not come with a micromanager. So we do get short-term gains, but we have a lot of long-term harm. Those folks who are managed by our micromanaging leader have really, really high attrition rates. So they get pushed to a new level of potential, we could say, but it doesn't last very long. They get tired of it and they usually quit and look for a new job. So short-term outcomes, really long-term harm to the overall business. Now, what is a macromanager? We may not be familiar with this term. A macromanager is literally the opposite of a micromanager. So this is somebody that is really hands-off. This is somebody who wants to see the long-term plan, who wants to see results, but doesn't care how those get achieved. So not interested in what any individual's process is, maybe even doesn't set work hours. So we are probably familiar. If we haven't worked with a macromanager, maybe we know family members or friends who work with macromanagers. This is very common in the tech industry. Think like Google and software companies where programmers don't really have a schedule. As long as the project gets done, as long as that new program gets created and published, then the leadership team is happy, right? It's results focused. It doesn't matter if you don't come into the office until 2 p.m. and you leave at 7. It doesn't matter if you work from home entirely and you never come into the office. They're really not interested in the day-to-day operations. They're not interested really in the fine details of how you get your job done, just that you get your job done and the results that we want to see come out of that. So that's the macromanager. So this is, I can't think of a bigger macromanager than our own Jeff Moore. I think if you took a gun to his head, he would still not give a lot of details about what he expects as far as work processes. He's very results focused. And that's all he cares about. He doesn't care about even day-to-day check-ins, even weekly check-ins with any of the folks here at ICE. He's always available for help, consulting, questions, whatever. But he's a very results-focused macro-manager type of leader. These folks are very open to delegating tasks to the point of maybe tasks can't even be delegated because they literally do not care about the day-to-day operations of things. They just care that outcomes are achieved, results happen, and nothing in between. Now, we have to realize neither of these sides of the continuum are right. As we say here at ICE, it's and not or. That probably the most effective type of leader is somebody that can meet in the middle ground. So my history coming and learning leadership from the military was a very micromanagement style of leadership, of literally being watched when my job task was to mop the bathroom floor, right? And having 1 or 2 or even 3 senior leaders over me just staring at me and watching me like mop the toilet, right? A task that is so mundane, that is really not important. All that matters is that it gets done, right? When we say clean the bathroom, all that matters is that you walk into the bathroom and the bathroom is clean. We really shouldn't be focused on how it gets done, the process to get it done, but a micromanagement style of leader cares about that stuff. They care about maybe down to how you twist the mop. I wanted you to mop in clockwise circles and you mopped in counterclockwise circles. You can imagine how that can be very, very harmful. So my history coming from that background was I hated that style of leadership and I never wanted to be that style of leader. And I, for the longest time, trended towards macromanagement. And what I've realized over the years is that people do need some guidance. As Jeff would say, they need navigational buoys. In the military, we call these your left and right range limits, that when you go to the gun range and you shoot your rifle, yes, all we care is that you hit the targets with your bullets, but nonetheless, you can't just fire anywhere and at will, right? You have to stay within the limits of those range guidance so that you're not shooting outside the range and you don't hit some farmer's cow or maybe somebody at another range that's also shooting that day. So we do need those navigational buoys. So as much as people hate micromanagement, as much as they hate to be logged into a Zoom call with their manager staring at their face 8 hours straight, they also don't do well with a complete lack of guidance and goalposts. People want to know, when am I getting promoted? How do I get a raise? People need to know those details. They need to know those necessary benchmarks so that if only for themselves, they know that they're being successful. So we can't be on either side of the continuum. We have to meet people in the middle. And that really a big lack of knowing where the finish line is at is very, very harmful to people, as much as micromanagement is, of not knowing when they're going to be finished, of not knowing when the job is going to be done. A really good example here, and I hate to talk about it because it's talked about all the time, is a good example is what's going on with COVID, right? We have never been given any sort of higher guidance or buoy of a benchmark of when this will be over. Is it a certain number of people vaccinated? Is it a certain number of cases per day? Like, when are we going to say it's over? And I think of all the frustration surrounding COVID and all the stuff over the past couple of years, it's kind of the lack of guidance and the lack of benchmarks. People do not know if we are successful or not because we haven't been told what those benchmarks are. So we often feel lost and frustrated. And it's very similar in the workplace of not knowing when my next promotion is going to be, not knowing when my next raise is coming, not knowing when I'm going to earn more time off or have an opportunity, or, hey, when are we finally going to get those kettlebells? I've been asking for those kettlebells for years. Like, what do we need to have happen to get those kettlebells in here? People do need some guidance. They need a guiding hand. They don't maybe need you to tell them what way to turn their mop when they're cleaning the bathroom, but they do need those benchmarks and guidance. We have to realize we can't just leave people adrift. They do need some help. So let's talk about how to reform both sides of that style of leadership. How do we reform a micromanager and how do we reform a macromanager? Micromanagers is actually in the DSM-4 is like a mental disorder, right? It can be really narcissistic and really classified as almost a type of behavior disorder. So not to say that micromanagers all have something mentally wrong with them, but we do have to recognize that kind of compulsive obsession people have with knowing every single detail, down to wanting to be CC'd on every email, to wanting hourly check-ins from employees. That's kind of compulsive, obsessive behavior. And what those folks need is they need details, but anything that's not related to the successful outcome shouldn't be really focused or obsessed about. So to help a micromanager reform, maybe you're this person, you're thinking, how can I get better at this? Is to really sit down with people and give them those benchmarks for success. But if it's not laid out that they need to do X a certain way, then we can't really hold people to that. So a good example is, what about, getting your notes done on time? How am I being successful as far as documentation? What are the standards here at my job for documentation? What if we say, instead of notes should be done every single day before you leave, or I want you to text me or email me or show me before you leave that your notes are done so I know that you're doing them. That's a very micromanagement style of leadership with a task that is relatively simple, such as getting your documentation done. So maybe we do set a time-sensitive goal there of all of your notes should be done by the next pay period. So still structured, still deadline focused, but it's much more results focused and much less process focused. So we have that structure, we have that deadline, but we still have flexibility. The person doesn't feel like if they don't get their notes done today, that they're going to be in trouble, and maybe that causes them to miss their kid's soccer game or miss dinner with their spouse or something. As long as your notes are done by the next pay period, then we will consider, that part of your job as successful. So that is an example of how we can make a micromanager a little bit less fixated on really, really simple tasks. Now, what about the opposite with the same example? So still talking about getting your notes done, what about a macromanager? A macromanager is going to say, well, just get your notes done. Notes turn into money. Money is how we pay the bills and pay you, so you need to do your notes, but I don't care how or when you do them, just get them done. That doesn't have enough guidance, right? That is, if I gave that guidance to somebody like Mitch would just never get his notes done, right? It's not a priority for him. He doesn't see the value in it. But again, notes turn into money, and money is how we pay for stuff. So we do have to get our notes in. So again, we could almost set the same goal of, I don't need you to do all of your notes every single day before you leave for the day. But if you want to be paid on time, then your notes have to be done by the next pay period. So now we're still a little bit detail focused, but we're still ultimately focused on the results, which is what a macromanager wants to see. And the result is the notes are getting done in a timely enough fashion. So we're nowhere close to trending towards being a micromanager. We are not saying text me, email me, show me your notes are done before you can leave for the day. But we still are setting a time-sensitive goal that gives somebody some guidance of, if you just say get your notes done, that can leave a lot of people adrift. People can get behind. We know once we get behind on something like notes, it's really hard to get caught up. So just adding a little bit of structure and detail to a task that doesn't really require any more intervention from the leader still gets the goal done and gets the results done that we like to see. So step back and reflect. Do you trend towards micromanagement? Do you trend towards macromanagement? I tend to trend towards micro. A really, I think, successful leadership team has people who trend towards both sides of the perspective. So here at ICE, again, Jeff is a macro manager. I tend to be more of a micromanager, and it's really good that we work together because he tells me not to worry about so much stuff, not to be so detailed focused, and I still kind of hold his feet to the fire. We still do need deadlines and details, and all that stuff is kind of important. So I think a successful leadership team has a group of people who are on both sides of the continuum that can help guide the organization from a nice middle ground of giving people structure and a little bit of detail so that they know when they're being successful, they know when they've met benchmarks, they know they're getting towards that finish line of whatever that goal or project might be, but without kind of standing over them and literally watching them do their job, which is a very inefficient type of leadership. So step back and reflect, which way do you trend? How could you better move yourself towards the middle, whether you're a micromanager or a macromanager? And kind of what buoys and navigational guidelines are you setting for your folks? And I think it's really helpful to sit down and do reviews. We started these last year. We never used to do these. Again, coming from the military, we used to have the dumbest meetings. We would meet and talk about the food we had for lunch the previous day and dumb stuff like that. So I've always kind of hated the idea of meeting just to meet, but we started meeting with ourselves and all the faculty on a more regular basis. We try to meet at least 2 times a year, individually and as a team. And that's been really helpful to kind of get everybody's feelings on how they perceive us as leaders. So we ask the faculty to rate themselves on a bunch of different benchmarks, and then we ask them to rate us. And that has helped us kind of move towards the middle a little bit better and kind of guide the team a little bit better. So make sure you are carving that time out. It could be busy in the clinic, but to meet as a leadership team, meet with all of your staff one-on-one, and then meet together and ensure everybody's on the same page about stuff and they're happy with the way the leadership is going and that they feel like they have enough guidance, but that they're not being kind of micromanaged and hawked over. I think that's the best way to do things. So that's all I have for you all. Check out the CrossFit Health Conference. Hope to see you here in Fenton in January for Older Adult Live. Have a fantastic Thursday. I'll be back tomorrow morning for Fitness Athlete Friday. We're going to talk all things carbohydrate and refined sugar, when to best time carbohydrate intake around exercise, and a lot of kind of nutrition focused stuff about carbohydrates and sugar. So make sure you check that out tomorrow morning. Hope you all have a fantastic Thursday. Have a very Merry Christmas if you're not going to be watching us tomorrow, and we'll see you all next time. Bye, everybody.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.